This is going to be a tutorial on how to put our Among Us felt crewmate keychain together. In your kit you should have a template, mine is already cut out, a permanent marker, a stitch booklet, polyfill stuffing, a piece of felt in the color of your choice, a light gray piece of felt, a blue piece of felt with a white area on it, a keychain, lanyard, and then a little cup with a needle, thread, and needle threader in it. What you need from home is a pair of scissors. Let's get started. So our first step is going to take our template, and you want to cut out your crewmate outline here and then their visor pieces out of your template, which I already have done. And then what you're going to do is you're going to be taking your permanent marker, taking your template, and for your crewmate outline you want to outline with your permanent marker 2 crewmate pieces. So you want 2 of those, cut them out. And then for the visor piece, the bigger piece is going to be the gray one. You're going to outline that with your permanent marker, cut it out. And then the blue one, this little white area here is like the shine on their shield. So you want to place this one over that white one where you think the light is going to be shining off of it. Trace it with the permanent marker and cut it out. And then what you should end up with is 2 identical felt outlines of your crewmate, 1 light gray, 1 blue with a little white area, and all your pieces are cut out. Alright, I changed the angle of my camera a little bit so we can see what's going on in front of me. Our next part is we need to thread our needle. So if you want to take your cup and take all the goodies out of there, we're going to have our needle threader that looks like this, some thread, and then your needle. So what you want to do is take your thread and cut off about an arm's length of thread. I'm going to just leave it there. Then I'm going to take my needle, take it out of a little foam piece, and then I'm going to take my needle threader. And this is a really fun tool because it helps you thread the needle. You're going to take it, you're going to find the eye of the needle, stick your threader through it with a little hook facing up. Take the end of your thread, stick it on the end, and pull it through. There we go. Thread it, pull that end through. And then what you want is you want this big loop, and you want 2 ends at the bottom. You're going to take your 2 ends and you're going to tie them together. You can knot them together, or if you know a different way of how to put these together, go ahead and do that. You just want to knot the end so it doesn't go through your fabric while you are working later. Alright, so I got my end knotted, I got a double strand here, and my first step is I'm going to be doing a running stitch. So if you take a look in your little embroidery stitches book here, it's going to be the first one, called the running stitch. And it's just an up-down motion, what you normally would think a stitch would be. So we're going to be attaching the blue piece to the gray piece. And if you're not quite sure how they're supposed to line up, take a look at your template. It kind of shows you where the eye and the shield should be. So I'm going to move this up a little bit here. I think it's supposed to be up there a little bit more. There we go, that looks right. So I'm going to start from the back and sew up through the bottom, pull through, and then back down. Little stitching pattern here. And if you have never stitched before, you can ask somebody at home. They might know. Look up some YouTube videos if you can't clearly see what I'm doing. Or use some of your extra felt that you had from cutting out your crewmate pieces to practice your stitching, because you have a lot of thread. It doesn't hurt to practice a little bit before you go ahead and attach pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead, continue my running stitch around the edge of this, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so when I'm done attaching, my little blue piece to my gray piece, I need to finish off my stitch. So the best way to do that is, I hope you can see this, I'm going to take my thread, I'm going to go through the back stitch here, or the back piece of gray. Pull that through. You can see there's like 2 loops that are being made. I'm going to stick my needle through there to kind of make a knot. I'm going to do that again. Through, and then through that circle, make a knot. Just tie it off so I know it's secure. Oh, just up a little bit. There we go. Alright, and cut it off. So my next step, I'm going to rethread my needle and move on to the next step. My next step is going to be attaching this visor piece to one of these outlines. So we're not sewing this onto both, we're just one. So I'm going to choose this one actually, this one to the side. And then we're going to do the same running stitch around the edge of this gray piece, attaching it to one of the green or whatever color Crewmate you have. So I'm going to just do the same thing, start from the bottom, go to the top, and do a running stitch all the way around the edge, attaching this gray piece to Alright, so I am all done sewing that to the front. Remember how to knot it off at the end. I'm going to take my needle, put it through the last piece of felt, pull it through, find those loops, and knot it. Sometimes it gets bunched up. There we go. Through the loop. Through the loop. Knot it. I'm gonna trim that. Now that's done, I'm gonna trim some of my tails here so I'm not sticking out. Then we're on to our last step, putting everything else back together. So, for the next step, we are going to be doing a back stitch. So you want to read through the directions on how to do your back stitch and follow the directions, making this type of outline. In this process, we're also going to be adding the lanyard and then the stuffing. I'm going to get my needle threaded, and then we're going to get started with the back stitch. Alright, here we go on our final steps. We're going to be attaching the second crewmate outline to the first one that we have all set up here. And like I said, we want to be doing our back stitch, which makes a solid line. I thought that'd be best to kind of make the solid line of the crewmate. If you get frustrated with this, or you just don't understand it, or you're just not into it, that's cool. Do a running stitch. It will keep everything together anyways. So I'm going to get started with that. Like you did with the previous ones, you want to start on the back, and what should we do? And then for this part, we want to sew around the edge, but we also want to leave an empty space. So this empty space is going to be where we're going to add our stuffing to make our little crewmate poofy and cute. So I'm going to keep stitching around the edge until I get to the top here, and then I'm going to go over the stuffing part. Oh, and the lanyard part too. Alright, so I have gotten to the point where I am stitching on the top of my crewmate's head. So that means now is the time I need to start thinking about attaching my lanyard. So for your lanyard, you have like a little clasp and then a little ring at the bottom of that clasp. And this ring is what you want to attach to your crewmate. So while you are stitching, you want to find a way to attach it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spread open the 2 layers here. And as I'm doing my next stitch, I'm going to put my needle through one layer, add the ring to that, and then push it through the top layer. Pull it through. Continue with the stitching. And hopefully that will hold it in place. So keep stitching. If it gets a little loose or is acting kind of weird, you can always re-string your thread and just go around that area a couple times to secure it. Alright, so I'm nearing the end of my sewing here, but I do still have this little pocket unsewn, and I need to keep this pocket open because I need to add my stuffing. So for this, pretty simple. Take some stuffing, put it in that little area you haven't sewn yet. Be careful, this is a delicate little sewing project. You gotta take your fingers and push it down, or if you have like a pen or a pencil nearby, you can use that to shove it down into your crewmate's feet or other areas. Keychain. Probably not going to use all of this stuffing, but maybe will. Depends on how you want it to look. And a little bit more to the top here. That looks good to me. And then I'm just going to continue stitching to close up this hole, and then I should be finished. So let me finish that up. Alright, so I finished off with my sewing. I knotted it at the end there, and then I should be all set to go. There's my keychain. If you do have some pieces that are a little bit longer than the other ends, you can go ahead and snip those off if you want, making adjustments. But I hope you enjoy this craft. Thanks.